Welcome to my channel, where the big shiny headlines stop and the real behind-the-scenes stories begin. This is the place where we dig past the drama on the surface and talk about the uncomfortable stuff that's actually going on underneath. If you want the full story, not just the pretty cleaned-up version that gets pushed out to the public, you're in the right place. Make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out the other deep dive videos on this channel. Because the stories you think you already know almost always have a darker, more interesting side hiding just below what you see. And that's exactly what we talk about here. Brooklyn Beckham didn't just slowly move away from his family or quietly put some space between them. He walked out of one powerful world and stepped straight into a completely different one. A world that runs on billionaire money, super private resorts that cameras never find, insanely expensive wine poured like it's juice. It makes the famous Beckham name look almost small by comparison. And right in the middle of all this is Nicola Peltz. While everyone has been focused on emotional statements, wedding drama, and that big loud family silence, the real tension underneath this whole fight seems way more uncomfortable than just hurt feelings or clashing family traditions. This looks like a story about power, money, influence, and who's really holding all the cards when the cameras are off. Nicola Peltz comes from a money world that works by totally different rules. Her dad, Nelson Peltz, isn't just rich. He's a super heavyweight billionaire investor who built his fortune over decades of taking over companies and winning big boardroom fights and having serious high-level influence that most people never even hear about. This isn't celebrity money or cash from deals and endorsements. This is old-school, private jet, big decision-maker wealth that moves quietly but controls a whole lot. Since marrying Nicola Peltz, Brooklyn Beckham has been living fully inside that billionaire bubble. Over the past few weeks, online talk about Nicola's finances has gone totally wild, with rumors flying around that she gets $1 million every single month from her dad. People close to the Peltz family have pushed back on that exact number. But here's the thing, no one is actually saying isn't true. Nicola has access to extreme wealth, total freedom, and resources that most people, including many A-list celebrities, will never ever get close to. And the way they live makes that super obvious. Brooklyn and Nicola were recently spotted staying at one of California's most exclusive and fancy hideaways, a private celebrity favorite that's known for hosting royalty, Hollywood's biggest names, and serious political power players. This isn't just a regular hotel stay, it's a message about which world they're choosing to live in. Now, during that same stay, Brooklyn posted photos that instantly blew up on social media and had everyone zooming in, frame by frame. Sitting right there on the table was an incredibly rare bottle of wine worth tens of thousands of dollars, the kind that collectors spend years chasing and most people only ever get to see behind glass. It's considered one of the most expensive wines ever made. And this wasn't some quiet little background detail. This was not subtle at all. This was a loud, crystal-clear message. Brooklyn and Nicola looked calm, close, and totally unbothered, sipping rare wine like it was no big deal. And they walked across perfectly kept grounds, relaxed in total privacy, and posted beautifully put-together pictures of peace, wealth, and being in control. Every single shot screamed comfort, confidence, and being far away from all the noise. And while that was happening, Brooklyn's parents were thousands of miles away, showing a united front of their own. And that difference matters more than most people realize. The Beckham family built their fortune in a very different way. David Beckham and Victoria Beckham are worth hundreds of millions, but every single dollar came from non-stop hard work, building their brand, doing deals, and carefully controlling how they look to the public. Their empire is polished, very public-facing, and tightly put together. It runs on discipline, reputation, and always being seen. The Peltz fortune plays by a whole other set of rules. It's quieter, deeper, and way less concerned with whether the public likes them or approves of them. That difference isn't just about money. It's about how they think about life, and it's the key reason why this whole situation feels so tense and ready to explode. For years, David and Victoria have believed one big thing when it comes to their kids. Independence has to be earned, not just handed over again and again. Brooklyn was supported, but he wasn't supposed to be given money forever without working for it. The expectation was always clear. Stand on your own 2 feet, find your own path, and then build something that's separate from the Beckham name. No shortcuts, no free passes. Nicola's world simply doesn't work by those same rules, and it never has. In the Peltz family, having generational wealth isn't about teaching hard lessons or making someone struggle. It's meant to protect, cushion, and give power from day one. Nicola grew up surrounded by private jets, mega yachts, designer clothes, and 5-star vacations, not as rewards for doing well, but as the normal everyday life she was born into. That level of access wasn't something she earned later on in life. It was always just there. Since marrying Nicola Peltz, Brooklyn Beckham's everyday life has changed really fast and really hard. The structure, expectations, and money limits he grew up with have been swapped out for a fully protected billionaire lifestyle that doesn't blink at price tags or care about what people think. And they now live in a multi-million-dollar mansion in Beverly Hills. They vacation on super yachts surrounded by the most elite crowd. They move between top-tier destinations without ever worrying about cost, timing, or any kind of limit. Nicola regularly walks around carrying handbags that cost more than most people's cars. Worn casually like they're just everyday stuff, this lifestyle isn't something they're working toward or wishing for. It's locked in, protected, and completely untouchable. And this is where the tension reportedly cuts even deeper. Behind the scenes, things are said to be way less calm. There are claims that Victoria Beckham is sitting on text messages that she believes show who Nicola really is. Messages tied to the wedding drama, the famous dress situation, and the growing space between Brooklyn and his family. According to people close to the situation, Victoria hasn't shared any of it. But the fact that those messages allegedly exist adds a whole new layer of pressure to a feud that already feels really loaded. Not because she can't speak up, but because she still hopes her son will come back. That detail matters more than most people realize. Even while Brooklyn has gone public with his frustrations and the distance he's put between them, David Beckham and Victoria Beckham have stayed almost completely quiet. No interviews, no statements, no emotional social media posts firing back. And that silence doesn't mean they're weak or giving up. It signals that they're holding back on purpose. People close to the Beckham family say something very different is happening behind closed doors. There's a strong wish to bring Brooklyn back emotionally, but not at any price. This isn't about controlling him or protecting their image. It's about caring about their son. David and Victoria are reportedly heartbroken, confused, and then really shaken by how fast their son's whole world has changed. They're said to be struggling with how quickly Brooklyn switched environments, values, and the people around him. The speed of that change is what worries them the most. According to people close to the situation, they still believe things can be fixed, but only under one condition that changes everything. They reportedly believe that healing can only happen if Nicola is no longer in the picture. And that's where the whole situation falls apart, because Brooklyn has made his position totally clear. He sees Nicola Peltz as his protector, his steady ground, and the person who gave him peace after years of anxiety. In his own words, stepping away from his family brought him relief. To Brooklyn, this isn't him acting out, it's him surviving. And that emotional split is what's turning this family tension into something way deeper, heavier, and harder to untangle than just a simple disagreement. From Brooklyn's side, Nicola isn't controlling him at all. In his mind, she's setting him free, freeing him from expectations, pressure, and a life that always felt like it was written for him before he even had a say. But from the Beckham side, the picture looks completely different and way more worrying. Their son is now financially untouchable, emotionally locked in, He can fully surrounded by a family whose money quietly blows theirs out of the water. The balance of power has shifted, and it didn't shift in their favor. This isn't just about feelings anymore. It's about leverage, access, and influence, and that changes absolutely everything. Meanwhile, Brooklyn Beckham and Nicola Peltz keep showing off a calm, quiet defiance without saying a single word. Sun-soaked photos, love songs laid over perfectly put-together clips, a public affection set against luxury backgrounds. Every post sends the same quiet but sharp message. They're doing great. They're completely unbothered. And they don't need the Beckhams to say their lives are good. But the question that's been hanging over all of this still hasn't been answered. Is this really about love, peace, and living freely? Or is Brooklyn slowly disappearing into a world where money makes fixing things optional and walking away from family way easier? And if the Beckhams truly believe Nicola is the main force driving this whole split, how long can Victoria Beckham keep those alleged messages private before everything blows up even more? Because once money enters the picture at this level, it doesn't just buy comfort. It quietly rewrites who has power. It changes who waits, who reaches out first, and who can afford to not care. And that's what makes this whole situation feel so explosive, so tense, and so close to boiling over without a single public fight. Brooklyn Beckham is no longer the son who needs to make deals, bend a little, or quietly keep the peace with anyone. That chapter is done. He's now married into a family where money security is locked in for life, no strings attached. And that reality completely reshapes every emotional conversation happening behind the scenes, especially when reports about Nicola's alleged $1 million monthly allowance started going around. The reaction wasn't just public shock or people not believing it online. It reportedly sent shockwaves through both families. Even though people close to the Peltz side questioned the exact number, the number itself almost didn't matter. The symbol behind it carried way more weight than the math. The message was loud and impossible to miss. Nicola Peltz does not need Brooklyn's money, and Brooklyn no longer needs the Beckhams for access, support, or security. And that one shift flips the entire family dynamic completely upside down. For decades, David Beckham and Victoria Beckham were the center of gravity in their family, financially, culturally, emotionally. Their house ran around a global brand where opportunities, privileges, and influence all flowed directly through them. Their kids grew up inside that structure where connections mattered, being seen mattered, and reputation mattered. But now, Brooklyn exists totally outside that orbit. He's backed by a fortune that existed before fame was ever part of the picture, doesn't need public approval, and doesn't need to keep up a brand name to stay strong. That changes everything. Conversations shift, the balance of power resets, and emotional leverage disappears. When money takes away the need to negotiate, fixing things stops being necessary and starts being a choice. And that's the quiet reality reshaping this whole situation in ways most people aren't even ready to talk about yet. And this is where insiders say the real crack actually is. Because while Brooklyn talks about his choice as emotional freedom and finding personal peace, people close to the Beckhams allegedly see something very different happening. Not freedom, but disconnection, powered by being so well protected. When there are no consequences to face, fixing things stops feeling important. When your lifestyle doesn't change at all, you don't feel the need to rebuild bridges. From their perspective, being comfortable has replaced being responsible. Security has replaced the need to meet in the middle. And when nothing in your everyday life changes, it becomes really easy to keep the emotional distance going. That's the worry quietly growing behind the scenes. And it's not about control, it's about whether this is forever. And the recent pictures of Brooklyn Beckham and Nicola Peltz drinking super rare wine inside a hidden luxury resort only made that feeling worse. At the exact moment the Beckham family was showing unity in Paris, going to big important events and standing side by side, Brooklyn and Nicola were doing the complete opposite. They weren't hiding. They weren't running away. They were very deliberately showing how completely unaffected they were by everything that had fallen apart. And the timing wasn't lost on anyone paying close attention. While one side showed they were sticking together, the other showed they were peaceful and miles away from it all. Every image felt carefully planned. Every caption felt like it was put there on purpose. Every song choice whispered the same quiet message: "We're fine." And that's what makes Victoria Beckham's silence even more telling. According to people who know the situation, Victoria believes she knows exactly when the shift happened. But she believes she knows the moment everything changed, when the power flipped, and who was behind it. And that belief is sitting on her heavy, unresolved, and quietly making a situation that already feels dangerously close to another breaking point even more intense. She reportedly suspects that Nicola played a big role in pushing Brooklyn to go public, to cut ties completely, and to lock in her version of the story before anyone else got a chance to respond. According to people close to the situation, this wasn't done on impulse. It was planned. A move made to control how people saw things, control the timing, and win people's sympathy right from the very start. The text messages Victoria Beckham is said to be holding allegedly show a very different picture than the calm, polished image Nicola puts out online. A version that crashes hard into the peaceful photos, soft captions, and luxury-filled look. And yet, Victoria hasn't released them. Not yet. And that hesitation says more than any statement ever could. Because despite the accusations, the public tension, and the quiet embarrassment, David Beckham and Victoria are still acting as parents first, not as celebrities, not as a brand, not as public figures protecting an image. They reportedly believe that once you cross certain lines in public, there's no coming back from it, no soft do-over, no way to fix it. Releasing those messages wouldn't just defend their side. It could permanently destroy any road left that leads back to their son. And that's a risk they're not willing to take. At the same time, their position hasn't moved on one key point behind closed doors. Insiders say the Beckhams would welcome Brooklyn Beckham back in an instant, arms wide open, no conditions at all except one, not with Nicola by his side. They allegedly believe that as long as Nicola Peltz is at the center of his life, making up is impossible. And that one condition reveals just how deep the distrust goes, how solid the divide has become, and how close this family might be to a permanent break, that money, silence, and time can no longer fix. Brooklyn, however, has made his position impossible to miss. He has chosen Nicola emotionally, publicly, and now more and more professionally, too. There's no gray area left, no quiet middle ground. Every single move he makes proves the same thing. His loyalty, his peace, and his future are tied to Nicola and the world that comes with her. And now things may be heading into even more dangerous territory. Rumors are going around that Brooklyn has been approached about telling his story on a way bigger platform. Conversations about a possible book deal are said to be quietly going on behind the scenes. A book that could dig into his childhood, his struggles with anxiety, and his choice to step away from the Beckham brand completely. If that happens, this whole situation would instantly go from just gossip to being permanently written down for history, because a book isn't just publicity, it's power. It locks one version of events into history forever and forces everyone else to just react. That possibility reportedly terrifies the Beckhams, not because they'd be embarrassed, but because once a story is printed, it can't be softened, reshaped, or taken back. At the same time, Brooklyn's career path has raised eyebrows for years. He's tried photography, cooking, publishing, brand partnerships, all while living under the giant shadow of the Beckham name. Every single thing he did was watched, judged, and measured against big expectations. Since marrying Nicola Peltz, who he is, has changed completely. He's no longer trying to find independence within his parents' world. He's living comfortably inside his wife's world, supported by money that doesn't require him to constantly prove he's successful. That difference matters more than people give it credit for. In the Beckham household, success is built, shaped, and earned under non-stop pressure and attention. In the Peltz world, success is protected, paid for, and shielded from failure. And that difference doesn't just shape careers. It reshapes how confident you feel, what risks you take, and whether you ever feel the need to look back at the life you left. There's no rush anymore, no pressure, no hunger to prove anything to anybody. And that contrast might explain why David Beckham and Victoria Beckham feel like they're losing their son. Not to him acting out or burning things down, but to comfort. From their perspective, Brooklyn hasn't stormed out or destroyed bridges in anger. He's just slowly drifted into a world where there's no friction, where nothing needs to be earned through struggle, where life is smooth, cushioned, and completely protected. And that kind of change is way scarier than an open fight. Meanwhile, Nicola Peltz's lavish lifestyle keeps speaking way louder than any interview or statement ever could. Designer wardrobes switched out without a second thought. Private travel that skips lines, crowds, and costs, multi-million-dollar homes, super exclusive vacations that look like everyday life. The visuals never stop. Even when reports push back on specific numbers or argue over exact figures, what everyone can see stays undeniable. This is not a couple cutting back or pulling away from the fancy life. This is a couple leaning all the way into it. And with every post, every backdrop, and every quiet little flex, they seem to be moving further and further from the Beckhams. What makes this feud so fascinating isn't loud fights or crazy headlines. It's the imbalance. Two powerful families, two totally different ways of thinking about money, independence, and who you are. And one son stuck in the middle who now seems fully planted on one side. David and Victoria reportedly still believe time is working in their favor, that the noise will die down, that Brooklyn will miss his brothers and sisters, that distance will slowly soften things. But with every sun-soaked photo, every luxury getaway, and every post about being at peace, that hope gets harder and harder to hold on to. Because fixing things usually requires some discomfort. And in a world where comfort is always guaranteed, there's very little reason to ever look back. And right now, Brooklyn Beckham looks very comfortable, calm, grounded, completely unshaken. From the outside, it really does look like he's finally found peace, stability, and freedom on his own terms. But the question nobody can answer yet is whether this calm is going to last, or whether it's just the quiet stretch before something way bigger breaks wide open. Because as long as Victoria Beckham is believed to be holding on to those messages, and as long as Brooklyn keeps defining his freedom through staying away rather than actually talking things through, this story is nowhere near done. Silence doesn't mean things are over. It means pressure is building with nowhere to go. And when this situation bubbles up again, it won't be about weddings, seating charts, or family traditions. It will be about power, control, influence, and the uncomfortable truth about who ultimately lost their son to a world they can't compete with or pull him back from. This isn't just celebrity drama. It's a crash between money, identity, and loyalty. And those kinds of stories don't end quietly. They end when someone finally speaks up, someone finally publishes, or someone finally draws a line that can never be uncrossed. If you want the real breakdowns, the deeper layers, and the stories hiding behind the headlines, make sure you subscribe to my channel right now. Watch the other videos on this channel because this isn't the only power shift happening in Hollywood, and this one is definitely far from its last chapter.